On this episode of Eat, Sleep, Drive, we're driving the M4 competition in the canyons of Arizona. And I'm gonna find out if it's worth selling my E92 M3 for one of these. Welcome everyone to another episode of Eat, Sleep, Drive, and I'm super excited to be driving the latest generation M3, M4, even though it's been out for kind of a while. But I've been interested in actually buying one of these and replacing my E92 M3 with one. I have an 08 M3, it's the V8 version, and this of course is the first turbocharged M3. It has a inline six that is twin turboed, and it is hopefully going to be a ton of fun, and we're going to find out today. So let's take this thing for a spin and see if it's any good. If I could put it in drive. Clearly I'm used to manual cars. This is of course a DCT car. So automatic dual clutch. Let's go. Shifts hard. The first thing I noticed when I got in this car is that it's very rigid and stiff. I went about, I don't know, 500 feet, and I was like, wow, this feels a lot more rigid than my E92. Of course, as chassis get refined, this is of course a newer chassis. Manufacturers put in all kinds of extra bracing and stuff like that, and I'm certain they've done that in this car, and there's some stat where it's like, this is 40% stiffer than the previous generation or something like that. Regardless, it certainly feels like it. The suspension is definitely stiffer than my E92, and I have it currently in the comfort setting. Just like most cars these days, it has adaptive shocks of some sort where you can put them in different comfort settings, comfort, sport, and sport plus, which I can toggle with this little button here, which I like to have the tactile button. It's really nice. But I gotta be honest, I don't notice a real big difference when I change from comfort to sport, or even sport plus for that matter. It is quite subtle. But with that said, I have no reason to be in anything other than comfort. Comfort is actually fairly firm in this car. It's not undrivable by any means, but it is. It's definitely on the firmer side, and firmer than the E92. While we're talking about comfort, as we get behind this Expedition here, these seats I don't find ultra comfortable. The bottom is fine. They are like nice material, nice leather, and the sides fit me just fine. But I honestly find this headrest to be sort of annoying. Oh, this person let me go. We'll give them a wave. Thank you so much, sir. This road reminds me a lot of Angeles Crest when I was out in California. But so the seats I'm a little bit disappointed by, if I'm honest. I really like the seats in my E92. These are very supportive. They fit my shoulders really well. I just, once again, don't love this, the head pushes your head forward. And I know that's like a safety thing and things like that, but it's something that I'm kind of surprised about, to be completely honest. While we're also talking about the interior, it feels like a logical step from the E90, the E92 generation. It's overall nice. It's not ultra premium, but there's nice leather stitching in certain places. There's leather on the door, where basically everywhere you would touch. Certainly on the center armrest. I like the steering wheel a lot. I like the shape. It feels slightly big, but overall, I really like the thickness. A lot of M3s have very thick steering wheels, and this is no exception to that. It feels really good. I'm gonna pull over here because I don't want to just be stuck behind these people forever, and we're gonna take a quick break as soon as I find a quick pullover spot. But as far as the interior goes, I mean, it's a comfortable place to be. You know, there's good sound deadening. I like, you know, kind of all the instrumentation and gauges. Like, a lot of cars are going to digital gauges only. This is nice that it has nice dials, and, you know, they're just of good quality, and the way they move and everything, the font and everything. You guys have heard me complain about the fonts on like GM products and stuff like that. You know, the Germans get it right, and this BMW is no exception. So I'm gonna pull over here. We're gonna pause for un momento, and then we'll get going again. All right, let's go here. We should hopefully have a little room. Gosh, we'll get to this engine in just a moment, but there's a couple more things I want to touch on in the chassis. So first of all, the steering. Super accurate, super quick, but man, there's not a lot of steering feel. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, and you know, this is the one now that has electric power steering, but it just doesn't communicate that much, which is such a bummer, man, for the M3s and the M4s. I know EPAS is better for efficiency and stuff, but coming from the E92, which has such lovely hydraulic power steering, this is quite a letdown. You know what else is a letdown, honestly? These brakes are kind of soft. Like, they're effective once you get like way down into them, but it's not a very firm pedal. Because there's a lot of like travel to it, you can modulate them easily, but man, you like really got to get deep in the pedal to actually stop the car. And unfortunately, that's not very confidence inspiring. You know, when it comes to driving a car quickly, and especially with something with so much power like this one, you want really good brakes. And while these do stop the car quite effectively, they're a little bit soft, definitely softer than the E92. So we have already caught another car. So I think what we might do here, because I really want to get to this engine. We could talk about the engine as we're kind of cruising along here as far as noise and character. I'm going to include a bunch of sound bites for you guys. You can be your own judge, but this engine doesn't have anything on character like against the E92 V8. That V8 that just revs so high, absolutely sings, is just such a lovely, lovely thing. And, you know, that was the period of BMW when they were in Formula One and stuff. So it really is a Formula One inspired engine, and at times it really sounds like it. This one, man, like, I know turbocharging is more efficient. I know it's better for fuel economy. I know you make more power, but it just sounds like gravelly. It's not very inspiring, and that is a big letdown for me with this car. But when we're gonna talk about what it does do good, and I know I feel like I've been fairly down on this car so far, but what this thing does do very good is create a lot of power, and it is significantly faster than my E92. So like, I would love to drag race them side by side. This car would decimate my car. It's just like, there's so much torque, there's so much power, and you know, that's what you get with turbocharged engines, of course. So I'm gonna demonstrate that here after I pull over for a minute, because we are once again caught up to traffic. I'm sorry, but there's one road here. It is a super scenic, beautiful road, but there is, of course, a lot of traffic. So I'm gonna give them a little room, and then we'll take it for a rip. We are also at like 5,000 feet elevation. We just passed its sign. Wow, that was convenient. and this thing still makes a ton of power at a mile high. And that's, once again, the beauty of turbocharged engines. They can just compress that air and still make a ton of power. So this thing still revs fairly high at about 7,500 RPM redline, but it doesn't have the high redline of that V8 that's like 82, 8,300. So it doesn't sing as much, but man, it has thrust for days. What I really like about it, and something that I am dearly, dearly missing in my E92 M3, is torque. And this car has just boatloads of torque. Of course, that's because of the turbocharging and all those things, but just absolutely, absolutely incredible. The transmission is pretty good. I mean, it's quick. I would prefer a manual. Of course, they still make them in manual, which is great. But it's super quick. It has better low-speed characteristics than like previous generation M3s that had the certainly the SMG transmissions were trash. The DCT and the E90 was pretty good, but this is like a further generation of that. So it's been lovely to drive when you just want to chill out and cruise and not have to worry about anything. It's quite efficient. My car at 80 miles per hour is at like 4,000 RPM. This thing is much lower, and certainly, of course, returns a much better fuel economy. So I think when it comes to summing up the the F80, not the E90, the F80, I'm honestly a little bit disappointed. And I know it's going to sound like I'm biased because I own an E90, but I would gladly, if this car was better, I would gladly sell my car and get into one of these. Once again, I think it's slightly better from a daily driver standpoint because of the extra torque. And it's of course more efficient with the turbocharged engine, better fuel economy and stuff like that. So I would gladly trade it, but it just doesn't have the character of the M3 of prior generations, which, like I said, is a huge bummer and a huge disappointment and maybe that's why these are kind of getting so cheap already, because the E90 seemed to hold its value quite a bit longer, and these cars you can get for like literally the upper 20s already. You can buy an F80 M4, M3. So, when it comes to reliability, though, these do seem to be more reliable. I mean, my generation, the E92, E90, has rod bearing issues, so people are always worried about that. It's not the most reliable car. I know they focused on reliability with this thing, so that's really good. And I think, if you want the ultimate track performance, this is going to beat my car any day of the week, just because it has way more power. And, if you want to modify it, it's quite easy to modify because it's turbocharged. My only concern is that even at stock power levels, the rear end seems to kind of be at its limit power-wise. So I'd be afraid to modify this thing too much. Because you're just going to be like constantly lighting up the rear tires. That's one thing that I really liked about the E92 M3 that I own, is that, a lot of people add a lot more power to those cars. They supercharge them and stuff, and the chassis takes it. It's just a lovely chassis, and this one, while more rigid, certainly going to be faster around the track and stuff. I just don't see it as being super inspiring to me, and doesn't really give me all the feels that I would get with E92. So I'm sure you guys are sick of me stuck behind this Expedition, pulling a BMW and driving way too close, but I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I wanted to, do something else while we're out here in Arizona with some beautiful canyon roads. If you want to follow me in between episodes, check me out on Instagram at Eat Sleep Drive TV. Otherwise, we're going to be doing a lot more car reviews and stuff in the near future here. So definitely subscribe if you enjoy the content, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace. We got some open road. Let's take her for a spin. Bonus content. Sorry for all the traffic, guys. Brakes, I just don't love them. Like, they stop the car, but they just don't feel good. It's such a bummer. There is, you know, one thing I failed to mention, there is a little more turbo lag, like in the sense of there's not good throttle response in this thing. The E92 throttle response is so instant. Of course, you can thank the naturally aspirated engine for that. This one, you put your foot down, kind of wait a little bit. Obviously, the power builds, and yeah, wow, look at that view, guys. Oh, wow. This thing is fast, though, dude. We're at friggin' elevation. That's a big number, as I'm 5,000 feet above this mountain. Thank God for guardrails. It is a fun car. I mean, it's still fun. I'm just like, I have zero desire to put the window down and listen to the exhaust note, which of course would be so lovely in the E90 bouncing off these canyons. Oh, okay. That's probably my cue to wrap it up. I'm gonna chill out. See you guys.